Welcome, friends. We are recording live from the LBTQ Women's Inform, Inspire and Celebrate event in recognition of International Women's Week 2024. I'm your resident host, Meg Talks. For this episode, I'm joined by Kayza. So there are many of us that know your face, know your name, and there's a heavy respect that comes with that in terms of the spaces that you've created to bring people together. But also, I think the stance that you take in terms of it is a non-negotiable that we have community and that is prioritized and so on. And I've got a couple of questions just to kind of do a deeper dive within all of that. So when I think about Black and queer people of colour being brought together, that was rooted in the heart of a Black woman, Lady Phil, right? And I'm curious to see, like, how do you see that legacy being continued through the millennial and Gen Z generation?
Well, I think we can start with you. Look what you're doing. You know, we can look at all of the things that kind of have rippled out from being able to have that space. And I don't know how old you are, but I remember when we went to the very first UK Black Pride, it wasn't called Black Pride yet. We had all of these different spaces already happening, but we didn't have something that was at that time for Black people to take up space. We went, we took up the space, and those of us that were there had a very different idea about what it is to take up space in very particular ways. And then as UK Black Pride grew, more people were in need, and it became obvious that this needed to expand into a different place. And I think the more examples you see of different people taking up space in their ways, I guess it gives people some kind of permission to do that, to do those actions. I was going to say do that work, but sometimes it's not work. Sometimes just gathering with your friends just feels wonderful, and that's why you do it. It's not in service. Doing the work is when you're in service. So very different things, but both taking up space.
What do you think are some of the challenges that the Black community face when it comes to finding and building community? And let me caveat that, actually.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm going to caveat that because
Go ahead.
I speak to a lot of people. Well, I have the privilege to speak to a lot of people, and there's a lot of loneliness. There's a lot of lone wolves out there. There are a lot of people that have got associates. So we might go to a dance. We might link up, do a little summer picnic. But when it comes to those meaningful connections that I'm in crisis, my heart's broken, I'm struggling right now. They don't necessarily feel that they've got a people or set of peoples to connect with. So I just wanted to kind of ask, what do you think some of those challenges are with people really finding those meaningful connections?
To keep it 100, a lot of people don't know themselves. A lot of people are running from themselves. And so the more inauthentic you are with yourself is the fewer people you're going to find that you actually need, because you're not showing up in the ways that people need to see in order to know if you're that type of person for them or not. So if we're constantly, and also it's a survival mechanism, if you have been conditioned for whatever reason to hide yourself, then that habit can be really difficult to break. And so survival has meant for a lot of us that look at the laws in Ghana right now, that's a huge thing, but Uganda and all these other places that some of us are from, I think survival is literally life and death for some people. And so that conditioning is deep. And so when we get amongst ourselves, sometimes we trigger each other. And so, I think showing up as yourself kind of opens it up for people to say whether yay or nay. I'm not everyone's kind of person. I don't mind. In fact, the fewer people who try and talk to me, the better. I enjoy that. I enjoy being on my own, but also interacting when it's good for me to do so. And so I think also, people don't really understand neurodivergence. And so people often can, I guess, get misunderstood for being rude. Sometimes I am rude, but you'll know when I'm being rude. And so for me, being as authentic as I can lets people know whether I'm their kind of person or not. And it gives them, I guess, that insight into really knowing if we will gel or not. And then as you build out from that, you start to find your tribe. You start to find the people who call you old bitch. And it's it's a term of endearment.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, show up as yourself and you'll find your people.
There was something that you said that really just struck a chord in me in terms of interacting. You said people talking to me or interacting with me when it feels good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want you just to unpack what that means, because there's so many of us that feel obligated to interact. When someone's talking to you, that you got to respond. When someone calls your name, you got to listen and turn around and be there. And you might have to be at 3 different places in one day and you're half killing yourself and you just want to be in your bed, right? So I just wanted to kind of lean into that statement.
I think that for me personally, it may not work for everybody else. I'm me and the people are them, right? So let's start there. As an individual, you have to know yourself well enough to know when enough is enough, or when a no is just no, with no explanation, no apologies. It's just no, bitch, I'm not doing it. But also being a mother of twins who are grown now, you know, I think taking up space as a mother, I think I've had to sacrifice a lot of what I may have wanted to do, or I can't say no to my children in terms of survival. I got to feed them, got to keep them alive, got to nurture them, all these things. And so I guess as the years went on, I was like, okay, well, that I can't control. That I chose. I chose to bring these twins into the world. And so, you know, I'm here to take care of them. Outside of that, everything else is a choice. So if you have, and everyone has that one uncle or the one auntie that's really mean and, you know, makes you feel really unsafe, I choose no. I never want to see you again. I may be at your funeral, but that might be it, you know? And I think just being true enough in yourself to know what is a hell no for you, what's a maybe, and what's a, I'll see how I feel on the day. I guess I have conditioned myself to be really, really clear about when any of those things show up.
I get that. I feel that I'm fantastic at saying I'm not coming. I'm a pro. I'm not coming, and sometimes I don't need the because. But I'm starting, this year has been an intentional year of, I need to stop saying no without considering it. Okay. I need to think about, perhaps this is good for me. Perhaps this is going to grow me. Perhaps there's something on the other side of me. Because I told you already, I was telling V, I like my house.
Speak on it.
I like my house. There's a lot of things going on in there. There's private toilets that only I use. You know,
fantastic.
There's free food in the fridge that's been prepaid. There's so many variables that will keep me in the space of just peace. And going outside disturbs my peace oftentimes, but I'm learning to manage and bring that peace with me externally. You know, so it's not. I'm still getting there. You know, Pete. I'm a work in progress, but we're getting there.
That's really interesting that you said that. I'm not trying to work on it. I'm staying in my house. I don't care how others feel about that. I really am at peace with not caring. So if I do leave my house, so for example, the reason that I'm here today, it's because Shah asked me. If Lexi had asked me, Aisha had asked me, Phil had asked me, I'd be here. There are very few people in this world that can get me to leave my house. Now, if you're talking about money, okay, how much are we talking? Right. Because there's a certain amount. Leave my house for this? No. The peace is too important. And so for me, it's about, more often than not, it's a no because of the things that you just shared. You know, I love my home. My home is my sanctuary. I love it there. And I also don't want people visiting me in my house as well. Don't come in my house. You're going to move things. You're going to touch things. That creates mess. Oh, no, we can't have that. So I have to really, really love you for you to be in my house as well. So there is that.
I was having this conversation just this week. I've lived in my house 10 years and I tell you, not 10 strangers have passed my door. It's just, I love the fact that some people are so social and welcoming, not me. No. It's just, that's too intense for me. I'd rather go out or meet you in your space. But you see, you know what my worst case scenario is that I want you to go home and you're still here. And then I don't know how to tell people to go home.
Oh, don't you?
No. And then
I love telling them. It's great.
But I think what's been really helpful for me, and I know a number of these listeners, in terms of just talking about the concept of friendship, is that there are so many different types of dynamics and so many different ways in which you can enjoy people. So whether that is out in a social environment. You're going to you're going to have a vibes. You're going out on a night out.
Can't think of anything worse, but yes.
Yeah.
Horrific.
If I even introduce the concept of Harry, but we don't have time for that right now. That's my ADHD alter ego.
Listen,
he's a wild
speak
boy.
on it.
He's a wild boy. But you know, you can go out, you can have people to come over, or you can go over into other people's spaces. But there are so many different types of experiences, and I just want to really quickly tap on what are the type of spaces that you have created and that you intend to continue creating.
All of them, as long as it still feels good. I'm about the vibes. So Black Girls Picnic was created because we, I guess, couldn't see anything around that really felt like what we needed. So we created the space. And as the time went on, Shadeen, you know, was doing other things. And so I continued with it. And so it is what it is now. And as long as that, I guess, still feels good, I'll continue doing it. Doing, you know, events on the Strand, doing events at Somerset House, wherever the events are or whatever I'm doing, it has to feel good. Same with filmmaking, making the Black Lesbian Handbook, for example. It felt good at the time. Would I do it again? Probably not. I can't tell you the amount of people who's like, that doesn't represent me. I am a lesbian and you didn't have someone. How am I supposed to have the entire lesbian community who are Black in the program?
I'm just going to say, if you try to do that, it'll be like a wild pack of lesbians.
It'll be wild. It'll be like the Wild Wild West, tumbleweed, stagecoaches, all kinds of stuff will be happening. You know, so I think that when you do things, you open yourself up to critique that you didn't ask for. And I think that instead of critique, it could be really great if we just said, when we're doing things, this is my offering. And with offerings, you don't have to take it, you know?
Right.
It's not always for you. It may not always be for me, but it's my offering, you know? And so I guess if we're all kind of delivering offerings, maybe we might find the things that are for us, the more offerings that we find. And so that's the way that I like to look at it, you know? As long as people are enjoying the offerings that I put out, then I'll continue offering them as long as it feels good for me.
The people are doing enjoyment. So is there any offerings happening this year, 2024, that the people them can keep an eye open for?
There are, but I can't talk about them yet.
Well, listen, all right, so where can they keep an eye? Where can they keep an eye open to see when they do come out?
I guess the best place to look is on BLM Fest. So it's at BLM Fest on Instagram.
Okay, so peeps,
don't follow me personally. I don't talk and I don't post and I don't want to talk to you there. But BLM Fest is where we do the work. So if you go over there, then someone will interact with you there.
And there's one last thing I want to ask. I know you're up against time, but listen, we're here now.
We are here
quickly
now.
About the concept of a safe space, because you said something earlier that I've not heard somebody say out loud. But I know I know a whole heap of us are thinking that inside, or it stays in the group chat.
Oh.
So what is how do you perceive the term safe space, and why do you perceive it in that way?
I think that it's very problematic for any of us to go to a space assuming that it's a safe space, because then you're assuming that the people providing the space can read your mind and everyone else's mind in the space. And so it's impossible to create and maintain a space that feels safe for everybody. And so how I like to look at it is safer spaces, where if people have suggestions, and I'm open to suggestions, I want to have those conversations. I think that's really important. But I also think that we are all responsible for ourselves. And so if somebody is creating a space, have a look at what that space is. Have a look at, access and all these other things that perhaps may be for you or not. And if you have questions, contact the organizer beforehand without the assumption that because I guess, I don't know, a few people are on the panel that you like, that it's now a safe space. Those people didn't make that space and they're not responsible for your safety in that space. So I think that there are a couple of things, you know. One of them is for organizers to be as forthcoming about the event and what's happening at the event, but also where it's being held and the access within that space. And then also for us as people occupying those spaces, for us to ask questions if we're not finding the information that's out there currently. we have to work together in order to keep ourselves safe. And also, you know, understand that we can't always get it right. We're all learning together. And so as long as there's that open dialogue of, didn't really like that, could we do something like this? Maybe. But sometimes you can't. And it's being honest as well for that person to then make their choice and have autonomy over what they're interacting with and the spaces that they put themselves into.
I think it's important because keeping yourself safe, and that's mentally, emotionally, and physically, you have to make it a priority. And what someone might think or perceive to be good for you may not in reality be good for you, just based upon, you know, that the complexities of our individual personalities and our own needs. So it really does create a space of empowerment. Say, investigate before you take your 2 feet there. Investigate, but also puts ownership on events to say, listen, be straight up.
Right.
Don't try and publicize something in a particular type of way when you know good and well this is going to be problematic for a certain percentage. Be honest about it, or be mindful in how you kind of communicate all of that, you know. But Kayza,
Yes,
it has been a good one. It's been a great moment. Thank you very much for squeezing us in.
no worries.